Alright, so this is just me an updated tutorial to the previous hyperjump strat tutorial guide. I'm just going to make some corrections and updates on things since there's just more info about it now that I've messed with it a lot longer. And also I'll show off like an easier backup strat that you can do that saves a few less seconds, but is still uh, it's still a pretty easy strat that I think any runner should be able to learn. Okay, so the first correction I'm going to make, in the original video I put a lot of emphasis on lining up kind of on the right side here, but really you can be like dead center, you can be on the left side. Your positioning left to right doesn't matter. It just matters that you're not like way on an edge on either side, or the front or the back. You just want to be somewhere in the middle of the crate when you hit it. This part's the same. You want to like right here roughly is when you want to start mashing, or even a tiny bit later. You just want to start mashing before the metal crate hits the bouncy crate, so that's the same as before. I thought that might have been late, but it was actually good. Here, you want to move a lot less right than I thought. Really, you only want to move this far right. Maybe even a tiny bit less would be good too. Basically, you just want the end of this platform to line up with the center of this thing now. I think in the original guide, I wanted it to be lined up like over here, but it's much, much better to maneuver the camera if you line it up with the center like this. So once you do that, you just hold up until the camera switches. Okay, so the camera just snapped. It's currently this camera that would be like if you're coming from the actual playing the level normally, you'd be coming to the left here, and the camera would be following you left. So that's the camera it just snapped to. We want it to switch to the camera that would follow up here, which this thing is kind of annoying blocking it, but this is like where the checkpoint is, the path that goes up. You want to switch it to that camera. So to do that, you just nudge crash a little bit left from here. And then it'll just smoothly transition over there. Once it does that, you just keep holding up again. As you cross over here, you'll see Crash's shadow appear, so that gives you a good indicator of where Crash is, like left to right. And then you can adjust him relative to the platform up here. Usually you have to nudge him a little bit right to get him lined up, which is what I'm going to have to do here. So let's do that, and then you'll keep holding up. Okay, right there. Hopefully you saw it. It's hard to show in a video because it's so dark. If you're watching the platform very closely right there, you can actually see Crash's shadow appear onto it. So instead of having to like time it or like do any of that, you can just watch the platform, and the moment you see the shadow appear, you can just stop holding up. If you want to land behind the platform to be a little safer, you can just tap down a bit once you see that, but ideally you do want to land directly onto this platform if you can. So I should land right on it. Okay, so I landed on it, I ran down and to the right. So there's two ways you can fix the camera. Like in the original I showed off that you can jump out to the right and then back to the left, but that can be a little sketchy because the camera kind of breaks your inputs briefly when the camera snaps, and it can lead to you jumping and falling off the front of the platform. But another thing you can do instead that doesn't require jumping is simply if you just walk to this corner here, just walk down to this corner and then walk back, and the camera will snap back without having to do any jumping, which is much less scary. I struggle with it a little bit. I kind of prefer jumping out, but I'll try to show off here just the way you walk down and then walk back. Yeah. Even there, it kind of like the camera snapping messed up my input, so my up left became an up input, which is a little scary. So yeah, well, once you do that, if I was actually like having one smooth attempt here and wasn't pausing, you immediately just go from that to jumping out onto the platform to catch it since you already triggered it. If you don't want to have to do that because it's scary, obviously, yeah, you land before the platform instead, and then you won't trigger it until after you fix the camera. Yeah, those are the main two changes. I also want to show off though a strat you can do if you're really good at getting the hyper here, for example, but you just struggle to get to the end for some reason, like you just don't get the distance, or you can't line it up right, or you can't see Crash's shadow very well. An alternative thing you can do here, it's all the same up until Crash is like at the Crash is at the Cortex like TV. So once you get here, instead of going up and like trying to get all the way across and have to deal with the camera and all that, you can actually just go right here. And then, okay, that was like a little sketchy, but yeah. Generally, there's like platforms the entire way you're holding right, so no matter when you land, like you'll land on something, so it's not super sketchy. Um, and then the farthest I would go is like onto this platform, because then there is a hole obviously to the right, and you don't want it to risk it running out right then. So like if you get a really powerful hyper jump, you just wait until you land on this thing, and then you can just play the level like normal from there. And that's just much easier. It's obviously quite a bit slower, like a few seconds slower, uh, but it's still much faster than not doing any skips or anything like that. I don't know how it compares to doing the Diggity Dive. I want to say it's probably almost equal, like equivalent. Um, Hard to say though without like making a video comparison, and I can't be bothered. So I highly recommend if you're like a new runner though, and you want to like learn a cool strat in the game. I think that is like the go-to one because getting the hyper jump right there off the crate is really not that hard. And if you just play it this way, just fixing the camera one time and then just following the level like normal, except you're floating until you land and then just finishing out the level, like that's just super easy. And I think any runner should be able to do it if they can get the hyper jump in the first place. So highly recommend doing that. Yeah, hopefully this is helpful and just gives a better explanation than the original guide because there was a lot of stuff missing from that because I just wanted to throw it out quickly. Um, Hopefully this complements it well. I guess we'll see. Thanks.